Welcome to New England Lacrosse Journal's Chasing the Goal podcast, your destination for all things lacrosse. I am your host, Kyle Devitt, and in studio is Mr. Jack Piatelli. Jack, how are we feeling today?
I feel great. Unlike you, you've got some PT today, do you?
I do. Yeah. I gotta go get stim, gotta get a one of those weird liquid ice things, and gotta do some exercises that make me feel silly. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, and then you're off the field for a year. I mean, I don't know what your teammates are going to do. They're going to miss you out there. You're not going to have the offensive production without you on the field. Well, what's your shooting percentage? 1 out of 10?
Right before I got hurt, I wrung one off the pipe into the parking lot. So I feel pretty good about coming back. Shooters don't die, you know that, right?
You can just
the last thing you lose is your power.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So we'll figure it out. But we should talk about our guest in studio, Shire native Casey Brodersen, also the assistant coach at Providence College. How's it going, man?
It's going great. Thanks for having me, Kyle. Thanks for having me, Jack. And looking forward to doing this today.
Yeah, absolutely did not recognize you when I saw you this summer. I know you are sick of being roasted by this, but all of your pictures online are you with a buzz cut, and you have really ridiculously luscious hair, and I don't know why you would buzz your head if this is the hair that's underneath.
I don't know. I've been shaving it since 2009. It was easy. Figured I'd save a few bucks at the barbers. I should have put it in like a savings account. I never did, and I don't know. A lot of changes. Had a kid, started a new spot. I'm like, why not grow the hair out? So a little bit of everything here.
I wish I could grow my hair out.
Well, I think that's the other side of it. I think I got a lot of friends right now that are like, dude, you've been shaving it for that long, and now you got that underneath. What are you doing to me? I'm catching a lot of flack for that from friends who will not be named. Will say, giving me a little heat.
And it looks like the way you're going, you're never gonna have to shave your head. You know, I'm thinking about shaving my head pretty soon, but I don't know if I shave my head, I probably won't be invited back on this podcast. You
wear a hat for every podcast. What do you care?
But it's funny. I was down in Wesley, Rhode Island over the weekend looking for a barber. I ran into this place, Ray's, and I called the guy beforehand. I go in there and I'm like, $30 to get this cut? $30. I go, this is crazy. It took him 5 minutes.
It's like $10 per hair.
And then he didn't have to sweep after he cut my hair because there was nothing there on the floor.
I think my wife's happy though. She doesn't have to, clean up the back. I used to do it in the shower right before to shave. She'd be clean up the back. She didn't have to deal with any of that right now. Plus, I think she likes a little better than the buzz cut there. Yeah. So we'll keep it going for a little bit.
I'll tell you look younger.
Oh, I appreciate that. You do. Thanks. I'll take that.
I mean, Kyle has a big head of hair. He doesn't look younger with that head of hair.
I think he shaved the beard. I think he'd make a few steps in that direction.
Yeah, weird. I've shaved it before, and people are like, "No, no, I don't like it." But Casey, let's talk about your playing career. Keene State. You're a Keene State legend. I knew about you when I was.
That's an aggressive use of words right there. I don't know if legend. That's
I think so. I mean, you're like the all-time leading guy for ground balls in a game. That's season career. Like, you crushed it. You're on the if you're on a top 10 list at your school, I feel like you get to be called legend.
They got to update those record books. I tell you, it's funny because obviously kind of going through being on the coaching side of it, seeing how stats are kept and the the variability of that would probably be the term at different spots and different schools. If I can go back and restat those, I think it'd be even better for me. So, but no, I appreciate that. It was an awesome experience. Enjoyed it. Mark's still up there, Mark Terrio, the head coach. And, I didn't even start playing lacrosse till I was in high school. And then to get to play at the college level and ultimately what turned out to be my career path. I wouldn't have thought that at the time, but I feel very fortunate for it. Loved my time at Keene, won a conference championship, went to the tournament, fell short 2 other ones to Eastern Connecticut. I know Coach Gibson's starting up there right now. So I congratulated him and said, as long as he loses to the Owls, that would be a good thing for Eastern Connecticut. But no, it was an awesome experience up there.
Interesting. You started playing when you were in high school. Obviously, you played other sports in high school. What was the transition like to play lacrosse, having not played up until your high school career?
Yeah, I think it was the old football player that had nothing to do in the spring. I wasn't a baseball guy. Brian O'Reilly, the head coach, I went to Pinkerton Academy in New Hampshire.
Another legend.
Very much so. A real legend.
Yeah.
Was the longtime football lacrosse coach. He gave lacrosse a few years ago. He's the athletic director, still coaching football up there. Kind of asked me what I was doing in the spring. I had nothing, so I went and played lacrosse, and just grew to love it. I had good friends, through the experience, and the ability to go play college after that. Going through, and there's a few options at the Division III level. I was a Division III player, which is awesome for having started, I guess, quote unquote, later in the process. Developing, I played like D midi, then I played O midi, then you get to college, you face off a little bit. So a little bit of everything there, and you just kind of fall in love with it and the process of it. It was so easy to work and practice on your own too. I think that's the other thing I really enjoyed about it. Football, obviously you can hit the weight room, you can do football related activities, but football practice it's hard, it's a grind, it's not always fun. I always felt lacrosse practice, whether it's on your own or in team settings, was fun, was enjoyable, right? Whether you're hitting the wall or you're grabbing a bucket of balls and going down to, we call it the oval at the time, where the Pinkerton practices, getting the shots up, bringing some buddies down there, even through college, going out on Sundays, and just kind of having some laughs, and getting some work in at the same time. I always felt that was the best part about the sport.
I played football, hockey, and lacrosse in high school. I was a terrible football player. I was 165, 5'10", 165.
5'10".
All right, 5'9", 5'9". They said I was 5'10", so you got to give it to me that extra inch. But I remember football practices were brutal. I hated it, and I didn't play my senior year. I was the captain of the hockey team, but to your point, I couldn't wait for lacrosse practice. I just loved going to lacrosse practice and running around and throwing the ball around. It was just so much fun, and that's why I stuck with it versus the other two. I certainly wasn't going to play football in college. No one wanted me, that's for sure.
Same. I'm with you there.
Yeah, I had some opportunities to play hockey in college, but lacrosse, just something about it. Just something special about the game.
It is. Now, football games, on the other hand, I mean, there's nothing to match those. I guess the build up and the camaraderie with it, and just the once a week, and the fanfare with it. Those are awesome. Those will make it worthwhile Monday through Friday. But lacrosse, every single day you show up, you enjoy it. You enjoy practice. You enjoy the guys. It's just different in a very good way.
Yeah, I didn't have that experience in football because I was on the bench.
Well, I didn't get there for early in my football career. It took me a little later to get there, but we enjoyed it. My senior year, though, we lost to Manchester Central in the football final, and then BG in the lacrosse final before they were the BG they are now. So.
Wow. I was a running back and I never scored a touchdown. So that tells you something.
Tells me a lot of things I already know. Yeah, I got it. I think people now, because of the BG dominance in New Hampshire, don't appreciate that before BG, there was Pinkerton dominance. And I think that's kind of the culture of Derry and being fed into Pinkerton Academy. It used to be, people also don't know this, Pinkerton used to be like a bunch of towns. It wasn't just, it was like Wyndham, there's a couple other towns around there that fed into Pinkerton. And to this day, I think it's like, someone told me it was at least 60 kids try out for Pinkerton's varsity every year. I mean, it's got the sheer volume that a lot of other places in the state don't have. Did that kind of influence you to like develop yourself at a high rate, you think? Because there's a lot of schools that are just, I coach at one, it's really small.
Yeah, I think the competitiveness of it, and you see the guys around you, and you start, not that it's the right thing, but you start, going through the depth chart. Well, I'm here at this position, what do I got to do to get, up? And you start playing those games with yourself, especially a guy who had not played. I played freshman, and then JV, I kind of the traditional path, I guess, for a guy that just started out, and then, varsity kind of end of sophomore year, I was on the roster, and then played junior and senior year. But yeah, I mean, Pinkerton's huge. My graduating class, I think, was like 700-800 kids. It's still that way. And to your point, Kyle, it's got, I think, Derry obviously sends there, Chester, Hampstead. I think people can still apply to go there. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think just being around it, right, competitively. Plus, there were guys that were playing at a higher level, so you were exposed to that. Like the Boyle brothers, when I was in high school, where the guys Brian went to Notre Dame originally, then went to Penn State and finished there, and Steve, who still coaches collegiately at Drexel, went to Hopkins, was a 3-time All-American, actually played for my current boss, Bobby Benson, during his time at Hopkins. So you were just around high level players, which you kind of saw what it looked like and you saw what to work towards at that point. And then, like you talked about before BG, Pinkerton won every state championship pretty much until BG kind of got rolling. Even in 05, and I tell Chris this is a laugh, we kind of gotten after those guys in the regular season. And then they, to their credit, turned it around in the postseason, got it done, and they've kind of taken off from there. But there's been some good battles. Pinkerton won like 2, I think 2 before COVID, maybe, or during the COVID stretch. So it was some good back and forth there. But I give Chris credit. I think Chris Cameron, the head coach of Bishop Girton, and then Tom Hawk's club director. He's done a good job giving those guys a platform to play at a higher level. Like when I was going through, there weren't a ton of guys at the Division I level. I talked about like Brian and Steve, and then Bobby Shields played at Brown at the time. But every year those guys churn out a lot of Division I guys, for the last handful of years. And then you got some other programs in the area, like Four Leaf has got some guys going. So it's really developed up in New Hampshire.
People always ask me who the best player in the history of New Hampshire is. And I say Steve Boyle. Everyone thinks it's Ryder. Everyone says it's Ryder Garnsey. I'm like, no, it's Steve Boyle.
Yeah, I'm biased. I played, in Steve's time when Steve was there, and obviously a little different. Prep school, public school. Pinkerton's a public school. Everyone calls it a private school. It's a public school. But
I know. Why do they do that? Why do people do that? I had a guy email me pissed off that I put Pinkerton as a public school in our public school rankings. I'm like, dude, you don't even know what you're talking about. Like, I get that it says academy, but it's just a name.
Yeah, no, it's a public school. It's a public school. You live in those towns. You go to the school. Nothing fancy.
Well, that's our way. Nothing fancy. Speaking of which, your speciality is I would say some people would say nothing fancy position, but it's become fancy, I would say, and that's faceoffs. You're known across the coaching world as one of the best coaches of the position. How has that developed for you? You've sent several players pro. You're one of the best coaches at it. How did that happen?
It's kind of just developed into something. Like I said, I did it in college myself. I faced off in high school and then in college. And before there was like these true Fogos, right? You still played a little bit. So I would face off, I'd stay on, probably stay on a little too long on either end, as my buddies would tell you. And then once I got into coaching, my first coaching gig was at Springfield College with Coach Bugby. I went there. I didn't have any expectation of anything. He's like, yeah, work with the face-up guys. You can work with offense. And Mark Eaton was a guy there. He ended up being like Pilgrim League Player of the Year as a junior. And then I moved on after that to Bryant, and I coached the Massa brothers. And then still got the guys there that we recruited and coached for a little bit. And I think the position has just grown, developed, ebbed and flowed. And trying to stay with those ebbs and flows as you go, right? I think it's gone from where maybe in the early to mid 2000s, everyone was doing some different stuff, whether they call it like rakes or counters or quicks, or everyone's got a different name for it, right? And then you kind of get past that, get into the 210s, it became a much more power game, with the motorcycle grip, guys over it. Not that they weren't doing prior, but it became much more prominent, I would say would be the term, and guys getting over the ball. So I coached Kevin Massa, and he had a lot of success with it. And then you get guys knee down, and then you kind of, it developed from that standpoint. And then the rules committee wanted to back off of that. They didn't like the tie-ups and the elongated face-offs. So then they made you stand up and go over under grip. And now a lot of the things that, in the early 2000s, where guys being, quicker, or, they call it counters now, and having different stuff has come back. And the counters weren't really the same as what they are now, right? Like in, people would rake it, try to play for the ball, kick it out. It wasn't as strong. Now, the counters have become kind of the next move. If a guy's super heavy to it, how do you get into it? Whether you come under, whether you come over. And I think trying to just keep up with those trends. But I've been fortunate. I've coached some really highly able players that have been coachable, developed, and they've coached each other. So I don't think it's as much as what I've had to do. It's those guys being able to perform and execute, and just, my job's to not mess them up too bad, and hopefully give them a plan for success, as they go out there and compete, and trying to, repeat that process at Providence.
Last 5 years, there have been a number of rule changes to the face-off. Where it stands today, do you like where it is?
I'm going to be probably on the outside on this one. I would prefer they become a little more stickler with some stuff, and I think it'll clean it up, right? Like, I am more in favor of the rule book states, and I'm not going to go too much in tangent, to vary the whistle. And the vary should come after the set. So it's down, set, whistle. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I shouldn't hit the table. It's probably making an echo sound. I'm in favor of varying it longer after the set. I think players will adjust, right? The rule is to react to the whistle, not overly anticipate. And what ends up happening, and I feel for the refs a little bit because they're in a tough spot, they just blow the whistle as fast as they can and want to get out of there. And, he's going early, he's not going early. And I think if they played that a little cleaner, players would adjust to it. And you'd probably get some cleaner face-offs there, less violations, which would be good for everybody. I think that would be a good thing. I think some of the counter stuff, it's some gray areas. Some refs will call some stuff, some refs won't call some stuff, and you get that everywhere. But
for example,
holds, right? Like, everyone wants a hold. If you're holding a guy, you come over and you pin him. Is that a hold? Is it not? He's playing the stick. Like the rule says, you should play the ball instead. So it depends, how you read into it. Most people are just like, blow it and let it go. I think if you want a cleaner product, vary the whistle a little more after the set. The other thing they could do, they could put the ball down second again, which they had started doing pre-COVID, but then COVID came and they, for safety reasons, wanted the refs to step away and be away from it. But prior, the sticks had been down, the ball went down second, which cleaned up a lot of the lean stuff in there. I don't think that would be a bad thing to get back to. I think it's great. I think should remain a part of the game. I know a lot of people have talked about, getting rid of it. I know there's a lot of discussion about it in the pro league right now, with teams pretty much punting on the face-off right and going fully defensive. With the poles, I think it's a little different. I think the wings are tighter there, so it makes it harder to kind of hit those seams and go out the front. And then obviously the shot clock factor has been the biggest driver of that, with the 32-second shot clock out the face-off in the pro league. So I think there's a lot of just moving parts, variations to it. I don't pretend to have all the answers. These are just discussions I have with my buddies on the sidelines all summer, but I just think it can be a cleaner product, it can be officiated better to help the officials too.
I think one of the things that I feel like face-off is like the dark arts of lacrosse, right? Like, I feel like it's more known for people cheating at it than being naturally good at it, because there's so much competition for it. Teams have multiple face-off guys, but there's only one guy for each team at a time, right? So it's basically the only other positions like that is goalie, right? So goalie's in the whole game, and you can put a different face-off guy in, but it's the game within the game. And I think some people look at it, people that hate face-offs are kind of like, well, it's just to see who cheats better. It's like the Tour de France. You know what I mean? People are just looking at it like that. And I don't think that's true, but there is an element of that.
No, there's gamesmanship like anything else. I think gamesmanship will be the term I use, but not outright blatant cheating. It's probably out there in parts, but I genuinely believe, and I guess I have faith, that guys are trying to do it right way. Everyone's trying to gain an edge. And I think the other reason the face-off is good for the game, right, is you have the ability to go on runs. If a team's down late, they rip off a few face-offs, they're right back in the game. It gets that, it doesn't have to be an even possession game. You got to earn the ball back. I think that's what makes it unique as opposed to other sports. You just kind of pull and go. I think that is a unique aspect to it as well. But no, I'm going to put my faith in the guys who are trying to do it the right way, gain edges that might, go to the line, if not step over, but blatant cheating is, I don't think as prevalent as people make it out to be.
Sorry, I just want to follow that up real quick. I have a friend at a high level facing off, and he said he beats guys clean, and then he beats guys with one other thing. And I was like, what is it? He's like, well, face off guys know if you can see the ref's face, you can see when he's going to blow the whistle, and that's not clean. So if you beat a guy clean, it means you really beat him. But if you watch the ref's face so he can see when he tenses up to blow the whistle, that's not clean.
Yeah, there's a lot of variance. I've seen that over the years. It's in spots. I don't say it's a ton, but it's tough because the ref sometimes is there. He's there. Like you don't always, get the look at it. They're in front, they're behind. So I think yes, you could do that. I don't think that's got a high rate of success personally. You might be able to get a few here and there, but I don't think that's if you're going to go in and out every game, that's going to be the answer.
When I played, we'd get the best athletic player and sometimes the best skilled player to face off. And he was probably, sometimes we had attackmen facing off. But we had a lot of wing play. What I'd like to see, I think that makes the game more exciting, is just a little more wing play.
Yeah.
And I think you've seen a little bit more with the new rule changes. Would you like to see more?
Yeah, I would. Play? I'd be in favor of that. I think that's a positive thing for the game, right? You get some of those athletes involved. You create unsettled transition situations. You get some situational lacrosse. You got to identify, are guys rolling up, they're rolling back. How you playing the subs behind it? Are you playing sub game behind it? If you get the face-off guy losing it, caught on an LSM or a midi, or you put no middies out there, D midi. So there's a lot of decisions that need to be made about that. I'd be in favor of more wing play, right? And face-off guys are getting so good now. They can read the wings, like who's moving up, moving down. They have their calls. They throw it into certain spots, right? Those guys are getting so slick at it where wing play becomes not only, hey, the loose ball kicks out, who's going to pick it up, but strategic moves. You throw it to this guy, throw it to that guy. If you play down, you can throw forward, play 5-on-4 out of it. So there's a lot of different things that come into it. I know there's been a lot of talk about, people want the wings to move in to increase wing play, which I think the Pro League does have. I'm in favor of that. The more opportunities to have lacrosse type plays, I'm all in on it.
Hey, it's Bobby Moran, Director of Athletics at Thayer Academy. You know what? Experience matters, and Thayer Academy's professional coaching staff understands how to work with each student athlete to help them succeed. Our coaches and faculty are committed to ensuring both 5th to 12th graders feel known, connected, and prepared. This is Thayer's secret sauce, nurturing each student to reach their full potential. Here, success is truly a team sport. Are you ready for your child to take the next step? See what Thayer has to offer at thayer.org. That's THAYER.org.
Are you serious about playing your sport in college? Do you need a flexible education that allows you to maintain your practice and competition schedules while also preparing you to succeed at the next level? You should check out the University of Nebraska High School. UNHS is accredited and offers more than 100 online courses, including NCAA-approved courses to protect your academic eligibility. Students can earn a UNHS diploma or take a single course for transfer credit. Courses are college prep, self-paced, and available 24/7, 365. Enroll anytime and take up to a year to complete a course. Visit highschool.nebraska.edu today.
How often do you practice face-offs live at Providence with the wing play and strategically planning? If you lose the ball, if you win the ball, this is what we want to do.
Yeah, we do some form of the face-off every day. I'm not going to say every day is going head to head and banging and live face-offs, but there's a component whether it's developmental with the individual guys, developmental with the wing guys, and probably 3-4 times a week some sort of structured team activity, whether it's riding, clearing out the face-off, man up, man down face-off, situational face-off, winning it forward, winning it back, whatever it may be, how you're playing those situations, whether it's skeleton, whether it's walkthrough, whether it's token, whether it's game plan, you're doing some way, shape, or form of it almost every day.
Would you say recruiting a face-off guys one of the most difficult positions to recruit?
Yes, everyone's kind of looking for the answer there, but I think a lot of the time the known guys aren't the known guys in high school, right? The guys that become team, first, second, third team, honorable mention, whatever you want to call it, All-Americans at the college level, and this isn't universal, but it's more of a feel, I don't have any evidence behind this, are not guys that were the guys in the process recruiting-wise. We got September 1st coming up in 2 days here, and we're all looking at our list, and we're like, all right, we got this guy, that guy, this guy, where's that guy going to go? And, I don't have the time right now, resource to do the study on, but I'm very interested how many of those guys on the back end became the guys at the college level, sophomores, juniors, seniors, professionally, whatever it may be. So, and I think it's what you want, right? Some guys want the big bruiser. Some guys want the, thick body that's going to get over the ball. Some guys want the players can get out of the field, make some of those more slick plays, play a little transition offense. Obviously, you can get both of those, one thing, or settled offense or sub-game offense. You get those in one thing. That's a win, right? But you have a few guys can do a few different things. So I think with any other position, right, it's what you want, what you think you can develop, what you think you can coach, and what you think you're going to have success with.
What do you look for in a face-off guy when you recruit him?
Oh man, definitely there's got to be a physical component. It's a physical position, right? I think if you have some weight behind you, some strength behind you, not only to be able to get on the ball and do different things with the ball, but absorb the physicality of a full spring season, right? It's a physical sport. Guys are in there, you're getting beat up. Everyone's trying to take it away for you. So you got to have a physical component to, be able to face off and then survive the season. I think as the game is developed, obviously the more of the ability on the ground, transition, unsettled, you can find guys that can kind of put both of those things in there and play some offensive situations that doesn't have to be traditional 6-on-6 to your advantage. I think that's always a pro as well. But the number one goal is get the ball, right? If you can get the ball, that's the first box checked, and you got to work your way up from there.
I think, as someone that does evaluations for players in high school, it's the hardest one for me. And it's because I'm not a face-off guy, right? Like I took face-offs like Jack did and all that stuff, but in college and even in high school a couple of times, it's such a nebulous thing because you don't always know how good the other guy is, right? Like, like, okay, well, I don't want to use the kid's name because I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but let's say a guy from Piatelli faced off a guy from Clams. I know who they both are, but maybe I know one better than the other. And I've seen enough at a certain point in their career where I can predict what he's going to do. And I'm still wrong, right? Like it's one of those things where matchups make fights, I think is the best analogy for face-offs. And, I talk to guys like Greg Gorenlian, Joe Nardella, we've had on the podcast as well. And it's interesting to see their perspective on who they think is good based on how they teach and how they develop players. I know that's kind of the two camps, right? The two camps in face-off world. I'm not saying you have to pick a side, but do you take what they say into account more than you would for coaches for other positions because of that?
Yeah, I mean, you're always listening to those guys, use anything you hear reference-wise. I think a lot of the guys typically have gone to those routes or specialist coaches, right? Whether it be those programs or other programs, right? And like any other position, though, I think you take the information you gain and make your decision based off what you feel matches what that player can do, what that player can't do, right? So if you're like, all right, they think this, I don't know if that fits what we're trying to do, and you take all those factors into account, but it's the same. Like I think you brought up, Kyle, with every position. We're doing it right now. We're calling club coaches about all the kids across the board: attack, midfield, defense, goalie, face-off, the middies, and they say, he does A, B, and C well. All right, is that what we're looking to do? Is that how we want to play stylistically? Are they a fit here for a lot of other reasons? You're trying to trim your list to a point where it's like, okay, we can get to these different spots, and these guys kind of we feel are right fits for us. And I think that's universal regardless of position.
Why are face-off guys so weird then?
I do not have that answer. I wish I did. I don't.
Do you disagree with it? The assertion?
I think specialists are just, interesting cats. I mean, you look across all sports, right? Face-off goalies, you got kickers in football. They're just long snappers in football, right? They're just, they're interesting because a lot of practice they're on their own, right? They got to be creative to figure out what they're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough position to play in college. You've got 3 or 4 face-off guys. You need guys at practice to go up against, but a lot of those guys aren't seeing the field, and that's all they do is face off throughout the whole practice. I mean, you really have to love it and really be all in.
Yeah, very much so.
I think one of the things I've noticed in the past couple seasons, looking at college recruiting, like just bringing it down positionally in Division I in particular, it's not one guy a class now. It's 2. It's 2 face-off guys per class, depending on the school. I saw one place brought in 3. And I was like, you only have so many slots. You're going to bring in 3? It seems like it's almost, and you know, I'm going to go on record and say this because this is my opinion. You don't have to agree with it. It's over recruited. Can you see where I would get to that? You don't have to agree with it, but can you see where I would get to that?
Well, I understand your train of thought and logic. I think a lot of that just depends on where you're at, your current roster. You know, if you're at a school that has admission slots, if you're a school it's not roster capped, do you like the guys ahead of it? Do you like the guys behind it? Obviously, there's the portal that goes into this as well. So there's a lot of different factors and variations, and everyone's trying to get it right? And all you got to do is hit on one of them in theory. You know, if you hit on the guy, it all kind of takes care of itself and it figures itself out. And it's an important part of the game, right? Possession. I mean, you have the ball, you get more opportunities at it, right? So, you know, I think a lot of places have trended towards, you know, I mean, most places I would say want 4 guys on the roster, maybe a 5th if you have some wiggle room with it. But I think that's still pretty standard. 4 or 5. COVID's probably inflated a little. We're in the last year of the COVID 5th year recruiting. So it'll probably, you'll see less of that, I would think.
Let's talk about Providence College. You're working for a gentleman. Your head coach at Providence was on our podcast, and he's full of energy. He's got a lot of energy, and I loved having him. Enjoyed meeting him. He really just says it the way it is, and
very much so.
Very different than your old boss. But how's the experience to transition from Bryant to Providence?
It's been great. Coach Benson's the man. You know, he's given me a great opportunity to come over and get going with him. You know, between Coach Benson, myself, Coach Kendi, and then we are fortunate we just hired Sean Ewart, which is, I don't know how much the rules, NCAA, but there was approval you could have a 3rd full-time assistant, 4th full-time coach. So we hired Sean in Providence. It's a spot that wants to win, and they gave us the support to staff that position, make it a full-time position, and hire that position. So, you know, Providence has been really good to us that way, and that was a lot of the allure for Coach Benson coming there. You know, they are supporting the program, and they think highly of lacrosse, and they want lacrosse to be successful on the national scene, you know, whether Big East and moving on, hopefully beyond that, you know, strengthening support, strengthening resources, scheduling, all of those things to fit into it. And, you know, Coach Benson spearheaded that, and, you know, he's had a great experience in his background. He was at Hopkins, won a national championship there. He was at Maryland, won a national championship there. So he knows what it looks like at that level. And, you know, to work with him and to see insight into how he does things, his experience, it's a different and good perspective for me to just kind of see how different things can be done. The office dynamic is great. And like you said, he calls it like it is in a good way. He is not a, old school would be the term, maybe, you know, rah-rah, emotional guy. He is more kind of flat, even keel, and it's the constant message over and over again that eventually seeps in and, you know, takes its effects. But yeah, Coach Benson is the man, and nothing but great things to say.
Yeah, you had mentioned it, but the volunteer position no longer exists in Division I, correct?
I think that's school by school. I think
Okay.
the NCAA said you could staff it full time on a school by school basis. I know everyone's got a different level of that. You know, some places, I think I could be wrong on this, so if I'm misspeaking on the rules, I apologize. But you could still have a volunteer. Some places are going to do part-time status with it. Some places are full-time. So it depends on the level of support from the school.
I know for a fact UMass eliminated it. So I think it's actually like volunteer across all sports. So it could be more of a state rule or a budget rule or a, you know, scholarship rule.
Well, I know budget wise, that was a big discussion that, you know, because we obviously had talks amongst our other coaches at different programs, at different conferences, you know, some places that have 25 sport teams. Are you going to really, is the athletic department going to fund full time for 25 sport programs to have another full-time coach, whatever it may be? So that became a school by school decision. But I go back to Providence. Providence wants to compete, wants to win, and they were all in on supporting that 3rd assistant, 4th full-time position, and we're lucky to have it. And, you know, we're excited for Coach Ewart.
I actually worked with Sean. He was a intern at England Lacrosse, and he did events. So I actually know him.
All right. So I did not know that.
He's probably got at least one bad story about me, maybe two.
I'll have to ask.
I did not, back in the day, this is not a secret, I hated doing events back in the day. I was just like, I don't want to do this. I want to watch tape. I don't want to be in the sun. This is terrible. Now I kind of love it. It's like, oh, I get to be outside. This is great. Funny how things like kind of change career-wise. But, you know, talking about that, you spent the large majority of a career at Bryant. made the move to Providence. There was a changeover with head coaching there. You kind of were part of all these teams that had all these great upsets at Bryant. How did that culture come about? How was that kind of created with Pressler from your time there?
I think there was a belief after you'd done it a few times, right? And the guys knew that it could be done. I think that was the biggest part. They knew they could go into the game and they could win the game. There was games that did not happen. We had a few good wins in the time, and obviously, Coach Pressler steered the ship and led the charge there. As we got going, we had a good run. I think we won 4 conference championships in a row and then 2 others after that. So I think the belief was instilled and the guys had all been a part of it in some way, shape, or form. So you knew going in every game, all right, we're going to find a way to get this done or be competitive, or there's a way to win this game, right? I think, sometimes if it's a program or a team, whatever level you're at, if you have not experienced a win like that, if you don't have the beliefs to program that you can win those games, it's an even harder road to go up. It's an uphill road. I think the belief factor was real. I think if you can win the game, regardless of who's on the other side, that plays a large part in it.
This fall is your first, Coach Benson and yourself, Providence College, first recruiting class, his class. What does the class look like? Do you have some transfers coming in?
So it's about half the class. So half the class was in place. Like anything else with coaching change, there were some fluctuations with the class, but we filled out the class on the back half. We got 16 guys total. We got 2 transfers, so 18 new faces on the roster. Roster's right around 50. Which, like the COVID year, you're probably last year of it, hopefully you're in that mid 40s to capping out at 50 range, but we're excited about it. We have our first practice tomorrow. We're in our 8-hour segment, and then we'll kind of do 2 weeks of that. And then we'll get into our 20-hour segment afterwards, but we're excited about it. But like anything else, when you show up on campus, everything is earned, right? The only thing that matters is your feet are in that locker room. Once they get in that locker room, it's all the same. Doesn't matter if you're the first guy in the class, the last guy in the class, if you're the biggest scholarship, no scholarship, you're all everything, you're all nothing, right? If your feet are in that locker room, your opportunity to compete is the same as the guy right next to you in the locker room. So, it'll all be done on the field, and that's how guys are going to earn their playing time. But we're excited. Obviously, last year we were drinking through a fire hose trying to figure out how things are done, the guys, the roster, recruiting. You're just running around. This year, there's a little more in place. The upperclassmen know a little more of the expectations, hopefully building on that. We're excited to get going here.
Yeah, it's I remember when it was kind of announced that you were going to go to Providence, and it was shocking, but not, because one of your really good friends in coaching and life is Kevin Gould. So basically you kind of took his slot at Providence when he went to Roger Williams. And he texted me this morning and he said, make sure you ask him what his best story on the road was with him, because you guys are kind of a duo going out recruiting and things like that.
Oh man. I mean, there's a lot of stories with KG as through the years. I mean, he was with us at Bryant for a year. He was at Dartmouth. He was at Lowell, and then Providence. And I give Kevin a lot of props and credit in the transition. And that's the world of coaching. There's ebbs and flows and job changes. But in the transition to Providence, Kevin was super useful, whether it's how things are done, the class, and just kind of Providence as a whole. I give Kevin a lot of credit there. So he was the man in the process. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of stories there. I think one of the funniest stories, though, I go with Kev is so he just had a little baby boy, and me and my wife were expecting our first, and I called Kevin up, and I told him one day after the season a few years ago, and he's like, oh, exciting, blah 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 blah. Literally calls me the next day and says they're expecting the day before we are due, but just couldn't tell me because they're waiting on the finalized stuff. So it's just kind of funny. We're expecting one day apart, and we've been kind of through this coaching thing. I talk to Kevin multiple times a week, but he's the man. I don't know. A lot of stories maybe aren't fit for podcast. I guess
that's what he said too.
Way to put it. But no, Kevin's the man. I can't, through the whole process, the switch over working with him, he's the man.
Now you're a defensive coordinator at Providence. Benson pretty much runs the offense and oversees the defense. Is your philosophy run at Providence?
So I guess our big philosophy is we're decision based, and everything we do, or that's what we try to be, that's what we're building towards, right? Coach Benson uses that as the tagline for the offense, which is true, right? And we want to be the same defensively. We don't want to puppeteer guys. We don't want to joystick guys around. We have fundamentals, how you do things, how you want to do things, but ultimately it's a player's game. And if, the perfect game, we could stand there and we wouldn't say much of anything, and the players can go out there and execute, what you've been doing in practice all week. There's certain standards, certain fundamentals individually with, how you approach the ball, your fundamentals on the ball, how you're going to slide arrival, things like that, slide angles, same offensively, right? How you throw the ball, how you shoot the ball, how you escape pressure. There's a lot of fundamentals, but as far as the bigger picture, we're going to put you in positions where you got to make decisions based on situations that happen. I am not a believer in, all right, you have to slide to this every time in this situation, right? Other times to do it, yeah. Other times not to do it, yeah. You got to be able to make those decisions on the fly, and there can be some, bumps in the road and learning struggles as that develops. I'm just a believer that, once they kind of get it, quote unquote, that you just have such a better product on the back end. I think part of it is development over years and upperclassmen helping teaching the younger guys and the culture of it. I think we took some steps there last year, but no, we are very aligned with, how we see the game, how we want to do the game, even though it's at two separate sides of the field, right? If you want to, slide in this situation, okay, what was your reason? What was your justification? All right, let's talk about that. And then we can kind of coach off of that, right? There's opportunities to make great plays off doubles. And I guess my tagline for the guys has always been, you got to know the rules to break the rules. If we have an understanding that what we're trying to do, how we're trying to do in different spots, even if you go a little rogue or, off the page, so to speak, some guys have that ability, right? Like some guys have you don't want to limit them as players. You want to find ways to make the best of their abilities as players. So that could be for different guys, different things. And how do you put all that together for the benefit of the team? So, but like I go back to, I think my line has always been, if you know the rules, what we're trying to do philosophically, how we're trying to do it, what our recovery patterns are, when the times to double are, how we're playing picks, right? You can break the rules at times if you see that play there and there's that trust level, right? I think that's been the biggest thing. But yeah, I think we're aligned in how we're doing things. At least I hope so.
Yeah, very good.
Jack, this is producer Dave alerting to the fact that Kyle has left the building.
Oh,
he had to go to PT. Yes.
Okay.
So you can go ahead and thank Casey, and I'll wrap things up.
Okay. Coach, that's about it. 40 minutes went by quick.
It did.
Thanks so much for coming in studio. Kyle went off to his PT, so he's long gone. Thank God. But you got a tough schedule ahead. Big East is one of the most competitive leagues in the country. I wish you the best this season. I normally get to 1 or 2 year games because I'm in Rhode Island, and
I know you're down in Westerly. You got the good spot down there.
Yep.
Your neighbors with Taylor Swift.
Exactly,
right there.
It's a couple of miles down,
right.
6 miles away.
That's a good spot.
She hasn't stopped by to say hello yet.
She's on that big Eras tour right now. You got to wait till that's done.
Yeah, exactly. But it's amazing how many people come by to go see your house. It's quite a house right on the water. But, yeah, thanks so much. I really appreciate coming in.
Appreciate you having me, Jack. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Coach.
Stuff.
Great job today. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Kyle. Heal up and get better soon. We actually do miss you in the studio. Please follow the podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you find your pods. The Chasing the Goal podcast is a Seamans Media production.
Toughen up, Kyle.